Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm lovely. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Steve and I are meeting each other for the first time here virtually, and he's got so much to offer. So excited to have you on. I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to start by introducing you to the audience who may not know about you because, you don't have the typical position in the industry. Somebody who is maybe an influencer on Instagram who does vibrantly colored hair and all that kind of stuff. You offer something quite a bit different, but extremely valuable. We're going to get into that today. You're the founder and executive director of the Untouchable Apprentice Training and Academy, which combines the job training and education to beauty students pursuing a license. Did I get that right?
You got it. Yes.
Awesome. And then you wrote a book. And I love books because books have so much information in them and people so often don't take advantage of them, including myself. I mean, I've got my favorite books, but sometimes I find myself, I love the book. I read it. Let's say I read it 5 years ago, and then 5 years later, I find myself doing things that I'm not supposed to be doing according to the book. So sometimes if I'm particularly diligent, I go back and I reread the book, and then I find that to be just about the best use of my time. So you wrote a book called Mindset of Acquiring Wealth, which is a financial guide for salon professionals. And so, a topic more valuable I cannot imagine. So that's why you're here. That's why we're talking. But I want to start with who you are, where are you from, and how did you get into this business?
Ooh, I'm a legacy kid. My dad was a barber, so I grew up in the barber shop. And my dad created a hair care product back in the 70s for Jerry curls. It was called Good Fred Oil. And, it was probably, same thing with, Good Fred, Stay Soft Fro, World of Curls, Carefree Curl. It was in that dynamic. And my start into the beauty industry was basically I ran around all day long to beauty supplies and to barbershops delivering product for curls back in the 70s. And from there, that's kind of when I got the introduction to who the beauty professionals were, because every weekend I would run around and deliver product. So when I graduated from college, I saw, based on my dad's barber shop, that there were a lot of people making good money, but didn't know what to do with it. They were hiding from, didn't want anybody to know who they were, car in their mama's name, apartment in their mama's name, house, all that good stuff.
You mean they were getting paid? Sorry, they were getting paid in cash. They didn't want to pay taxes on it, right? That's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they were hiding from the IRS at that point. So my first gig out of high school was with New York Life, and all I did was promoting and selling financial packages to hairstylists. Life insurance, disability insurance, putting together retirement plans, that kind of thing. I was kind of hanging out in that space, visiting salons. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I would have my appointments. Thursday and Friday and Saturday, salons are busy. And next thing you know, I'm hanging out with one of my guys pretty much every Friday and Saturday at his spot. And, he's got a crowded space. So one day I said, man, you want me to help you out a little bit? I can shampoo somebody or something. And somebody's like, yeah, right. So next thing you know, I take her back to the bag, shampoo her. And she's like, you know what you're doing? I'm like, yeah.
How did you know how to shampoo somebody?
Just because I was in my dad's barbershop.
Yeah.
I was rinsing out. He would have us, or he would have me when they were doing curls and relaxers and stuff, go rinse her out so I can start the next one. That's what my dad would have me do all day in the shop. Yep. And I get paid for that. So I knew how to work a shampoo bowl.
Yep.
And so I would do that. And then next thing you know, I'm hanging out with him. I go back next week. Same girl comes in. Come on, you ain't doing nothing. Come shampoo me. So next thing you know, I'm shampooing her again. And I started doing that on a regular basis with him. So I said, well, why don't I go on and get my license? So that's kind of where, when I got my license in the 80s, now it's an apprentice license. It used to be called a junior operator license. So I got my license as a junior operator back in 1984 and been working in the salon. I mean, I've had my cosmetology license since 86, my barber's license in 90. Started teaching community college in 2000 and still teach community college to this day.
Oh, wow. Okay, so where do you live? Where did you do all this? What state?
In LA. I'm an LA guy.
Oh, got it. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Which community college?
Well, I'm currently at Compton College.
Okay.
But I've been at El Camino College, Santa Monica College, PCC, Riverside. I've worked adjunct at pretty much all of those schools.
Amazing. Okay, and so when you're working at these community colleges, you're working in their cosmetology group.
Yes. I'm an instructor in the cosmetology department. And to the point about the book, I knew about the business side. I know students didn't know. So I've been teaching these business principles to my students, ever since I started, because I knew that the cosmetology school didn't teach that. And that's one of the things I was making sure that they knew and understood by the time they left.
What an interesting path into the industry. You started with the financial aspect with New York Life, and then you became a salon professional yourself, which is super interesting. And I just have to know, have you been good at taking your own advice? Financial advice?
Yeah. My dad made me do it way back when. I mean, I've had, I've been blessed enough to have saved quite a bit of money through my insurance policy, and, own property between my house and, the commercial property that I put my salon in. My dad kind of instilled those things in me. Why pay rent when you can own that kind of thing?
Yeah, super cool. Okay, so when did you write the book? So we kind of now have a landscape of your career. About when throughout your career did you write that book?
COVID.
You wrote it in COVID, of course.
COVID,
right?
I was down. I always had a format for how I taught it because, the community college is on a 8-week or 16-week schedule. Okay. So during COVID, you're not doing anything. It's like I would come in the morning, tell my class what to do, then let them go, and then we come back and I'm sitting around. So I took all of the things that I was reading and teaching and put that into a book so that I could now really have a structured way of taking my students through it with some information and with some homework and the whole 10 yards.
Brilliant. It's called Mindset of Acquiring Wealth. It's available on Amazon. I looked it up. And I believe it's also on Audible. I'm an Audible subscriber. For listeners who don't know what Audible is, Steve is raising his hand. Audible is actually, do we pay extra for Audible? Is it like $20 a month for Audible, and then you get
$20 a month, and you get what, 3 books or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, you get credits every month, and you can use those credits to redeem for books. So it's basically a book or two per, maybe book 2 or 3 per month. The Audible or the audio version of it, which is good for me because I have about a 30-minute drive to work, and I listen either to podcasts or to a newspaper or to a book to and from. So it's good for me. Your book is available on Audible, which is super cool. I didn't expect that. I just kind of assumed that Audible is like an additional layer of, I don't know, sophistication that maybe the author needs to go through, an additional expense. Or is it just you write a book and then what, Amazon puts it into Audible? How does that work?
No, you have to do it in Audible because, you have to go out and hire the person to read it for you. And if you're not going to read it yourself, the whole 10 yards. But to your point, same thing with me. I mean, because I'm always trying to get, motivation and learn some more about business. And for me, if I read a book, it's like I got to read it. I'll read it and then, dang, what did that say? Read it again. But if I listen to it, I can listen to it over and over again. And to your point, when I was driving to schools back and forth and this, that, and the other, I could knock out a book in 2 days
Yeah.
on an Audible side, but it would take me almost a month to read it.
Same.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to create it in Audible because, I know most of the stylists out there, some of them like to read, but giving them an option is a great thing in that regard. And you kind of learn that teaching. Everybody doesn't learn in the same way. So you got to kind of break it up sometimes.
Right. So that was great that you invested in the whole Audible component.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a beginner, and as we talk about your book, the first question that I have is, why do so many salon professionals struggle with managing their money?
Nobody ever talks to them unless they're lucky enough to have a parent or a mentor. Most people get into this business young and they don't get any financial guidance to what they should do with their money. And that's pretty much every profession. You talk about the beauty profession, you talk about, the NBA, the NFL, all these guys come in out of college, really skilled, and they make a lot of money. And unless they listen to somebody, they just run through it. So, that's the reason why I got it, was to hopefully give some education and some literacy to these young folks who are getting into the business.
Isn't it amazing that you can go through the educational system, the standard general educational system, and I'm going to say in the United States, and I think it's in other countries too, but I'm not so sure. But you can go through the educational system with the normal curriculum that we have, grade school, elementary school, high school, and even college, without having one class on personal finance. Not one class. I mean, I remember learning about the Etruscans and, what they did with the so-and-sos and the Persians and the history going back thousands of years. Who cares about that versus what the hell is a credit card and how do you manage it?
Right.
And what is a mortgage?
Right.
Or how to rent an apartment? Or let's learn about taxes. All the things that every single one of us has to do, regardless of what industry you're in. Not one class is about personal finance.
Very true. And, you almost go through that whole, it's a setup kind of thing. They don't want you to know because, they can take advantage of you for a period of time until you figure it out. The credit card companies, you got all this stuff now with, going on with them talking about forgiving college debt because all these students are in debt and don't know why. And, they're trying to pay it off and realizing that all that college stuff at the end of the day didn't help me with my job. And so for me, like I said, it was about the beauty industry because the interesting thing about our business is that our job, as soon as we get it, we're both an employee and an entrepreneur at the same time. We're an employee for ourselves, but we're also an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur, even from someone who is, older, is a learning curve, a big learning curve. And so we have no idea about what to do with it. We all want to get into the business and I don't want to work for nobody. I want to work for myself. Well, you don't know what all that means until you get in it. And then you kind of spend 5 or 10 years fumbling through before you figure it out. And you kind of lost I don't say lost, but those main earning years when you really could have been stacking it, you're going back and thinking, dang, I wish I knew now what I knew then. Mm-hmm. So my goal is to give you that knowledge now as opposed to wait until then.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about those mistakes that people tend to make. Give me the top 3.
Saving money. That's the big thing. And again, not knowing your numbers. So we talk about numbers. You need to know, like I have my students when they leave me. And and I hate to use the word budget, but it's about knowing what your numbers are. So I tell my students every semester, I give them a sheet and I tell them to write all their expenses. Even if you're living with your mama, write everything down of what you spend every month. So they write that down. And then I tell them to do a price list of all of the stuff that you're learning now. Do a price list of how much you're going to charge for those services. And once you finish, and now I want you to tell me, based on the number of expenses that you have and based on your price list, how many clients do you have to do every month in order to pay your bills?
Now hold on. I'm gonna pause you there for a sec. So
Sure.
when you say expenses, certainly you don't expect, the cash that's in your pocket from tips that you go to Starbucks every day and spend the coffee. You don't expect that on there, do you?
Yeah, all that.
Everything.
And we'll get to the tip part, because I got a plan that I talk about with tips, and your tips can finance the rest of your life if you structure them correctly and be disciplined. But again, so I tell my students, I say, look, so at the end of the day, you got $1,500 worth of bills: car note, credit card, Starbucks, shopping, going and hanging out with the girls. You spend about $1,500 a month. You're charging, right now you're charging $40 for a wash and blow dry. So how many wash and blow dries do you have to do to make $1,500? And have them do the math. So I say, when you leave here and start to do clients, if you have a good day and make $600 in that one day, you do some colors, some cuts, the whole 10 yards, and you go out with the girls and want to spend, $100 because you had a good day, or you seen this Gucci purse that you like, you want to get that, why are you spending money when you haven't even made enough money to pay your bills yet? You can't start spending money until you at least make the $2,000, because tomorrow somebody may cancel. You don't know that yet. Next week, same thing. Now you're trying to find yourself hustling. So that's kind of what I go through with them, so that they get an understanding of what their numbers are at the end of the day. And then once we move from what the numbers are, we start talking about how and where do you save money. So I start to explain, the banks, where you can save money, the bank, credit unions, things like that, and what kind of interest rate they pay you. And that's where we get into the difference between simple and compound interest. Because if you understand compound interest early, compound interest can work for you. The eighth wonder of the world, it can work for you if you understand it and put money into that on a regular basis.
Amen on that one. But before we go on to compound interest, in other words, getting your money to work for you,
Right.
I have to mention that bank fees are one of the main ways that the banks make money, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the bank fee of going to another bank's ATM, and of course they charge you. And when people complain about this, it blows my mind, because, you can decide whether to have, enough money in your pocket or a credit card that works, so you don't have to go to another company's ATM.
Yeah.
But if you do that, it costs you whatever, $20, which is just the biggest waste of money, right? The other thing that I know people struggle with is when they hit bottom with their checking account and they get like an NSF fee. It's $35. I think it's actually more now, maybe $40 or $45, because they hit bottom because they didn't know their numbers, to your point, and they hit bottom, and then boom, $45 vanishes from your checking account. And what a waste, right?
And that money, that $45 can vanish without even you having any money.
Yeah.
You go from, you got 12 and it's $40. Now, next thing you know, you got a minus 28.
Right.
They gonna get their money.
Right. Right. Okay. So this is all part of knowing your numbers.
Yep.
And the listeners are thinking to themselves, oh crap, you mean I need to log into my bank account and I need to look at all this stuff and I need to write it down? I know.
Part of being an entrepreneur.
It is part of being an entrepreneur. Part of managing your money is the discomfort of becoming aware of it. And I know very well that there are certain emotional elements to this that are very uncomfortable. Some people feel shame. Some people feel, bad about themselves when they look at their bank account and they see things not working very well. So do you want to address that?
Well, and again, to your point, the shame, the things that you feel are valid, but they're there for lack of knowledge. And at the end of the day, you need to find someone who can educate you on those things in a way that you can understand it. Now, one of the things that, again, our industry suffers from is that people don't take us seriously. They think hairstylists are just, man, dealing with them, well, I mean, they be all over the place. Nobody really takes us seriously in that regard. So for me, and again, this is kind of where I was at New York Life, when I was telling them I was dealing with hairstylists, they're like, I mean, everybody's known one that they've tried to get with. You make an appointment, and next thing you know, they cancel, and they late, and they make, so you just give up on them. And some of that is because they don't live a structured life. And again, they're at the end of the day, they don't feel beholden to anyone because, they do what they do and it is what it is. So for me, it was about trying to get these young folks to trust and understand that you need the help, and then be professional about going out and getting it done. And that's what me and my team do, is go out and talk to hairstylists about it and try to talk to them in a way that they understand what's going on, not talking down, having them ask enough questions, giving them an environment to say, man, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. And then breaking it down for them in a way that makes sense, and just being willing to take question after question after question so that they can understand it.
Yeah. Okay, so we digressed into some larger issues there. I want to go back to your point about the eighth wonder of the world, which is what?
Compound interest.
Compound interest. Explain, please.
Well, again, compound interest is, by definition, let's say you've got an investment of $10,000 and it's earning 4%. I'll give you a nice round number, let's say 5%. So 10,000 times 5% is $500. So every year in a regular simple interest account, that $10,000 is going to make you $500. And you put it in there for 20 years, that $500 grows to $10,000. I think that's the math is right. But compound interest means interest on top of interest. So the first year, both of your accounts have 500. The second year, the simple interest is based on 10,000. Whereas the second year in your compound interest account is based on 10,500. So you get more interest because the balance is higher. And that continues to grow for a number of years. So you'll get to the point where the same, and if we use that example, let me put my glasses on here. The same account would have 22,000, 10,000, at $400. Whereas if it was compound interest, you would make another, $15,000.
Huge.
Just based on the type of account you put it in. You didn't
Yeah.
have to do anything else. And at the same time, you didn't even have to contribute anything else. Imagine if you're contributing to it on a regular basis. And that's where that's kind of where we start to structure a plan that makes sense
Yeah.
in that regard. And that's the tip plan that I talk to all of my students about.
So this
'Cause I try
sounds
to-
like working smarter, not harder, which is of course what everybody wants to do,
Yep.
but not everybody does. So hopefully we're encouraging everybody to put, some additional thought into this. And one of the reasons why this matters particularly right now is that interest rates have gone up. And interest. Everybody knows that mortgage interest is a lot higher now, so it's harder to buy a house. But the inverse of that is that if you have cash and you put it in a bank, they're going to pay you a lot more today than they were 2 years ago. They weren't paying you jack squat 2 years ago. I think I was getting 0.02% in my Wells Fargo checking account. And now I'm getting about 4%, which is amazing. And there's nothing better than looking at your checking account and seeing the free, $125 or whatever that gets plopped in there at the beginning of every month. It's just the best.
Didn't have to work for it. Your money should be working as hard for you as you're working for it.
That's right. And so to take what you just said and bring it to like the practical level of everybody's day to day, you have to go into the bank or call. I'm sure you can call somebody. I go into the bank. Maybe it's because I'm 47 years old, but I go into the bank and I talk to somebody there and I say, okay, I've got $10,000 in my checking account. Tell me the way that I earn the maximum amount of interest on this $10,000. And then they'll tell you what the options are. But if you don't do that, they don't just automatically put it in the highest yielding account, do they?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, I mean, you'll stay in that simple interest and that simple savings, until, to your point, until you go in and have a conversation and get the education about the other things that are available to you in that regard. I mean, it's just like, it's like learning about hair. I mean, you come out of beauty school with one set of skills, but you got to take classes to, get you to that next level. Mm-hmm. There's 8 different balayage techniques. Everybody creates their own little thing. But how did you get that? By asking questions and trying things. Mm-hmm. Same thing with money.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with money. And the things with, exactly. The money environment changes just like the trends in the salon change. And you need to go in every once in a while and ask questions and make sure. My account, I want to say it was like 8 months ago, I went into Wells Fargo, which is where I bank. And I said, I had time. And so I sat down with one of these people there and I said, what am I earning? Because they don't make it clear, by the way. They don't make it clear, like when I log into my account, my wellsfargo.com, they don't make it clear what your account is earning. And they probably don't do that on purpose. So you've got to go in there and you got to ask, what am I earning? And the lady like taps on the keys, click, click, click. And then 2 minutes later, she's like, you're earning 0.05 squadoosh on your account, Right. And then there's 3 options, and then you can choose the option. Now, as you get a little bit more money, and this is one of the big incentives for saving, is that when you have a little bit more, let's say you don't have 10, but maybe you have 50. So over time, you've accumulated 50, and in most banks, they pay you a higher interest rate on the 50 than they do the 10, which is, grows the money even faster and gets you more free money.
Yep. And it's tiered, to your point, it's tiered. And, so we go through and talk about the different places that you can save money. A bank account, a savings account, a money market fund, which is basically a checking account that you can have with an investment company. You can put your money in those. And then, I'm an insurance guy, so you can also use insurance as a vehicle to save money in. People talk about, why would I do insurance and this, that, and the other. Again, when you compare the fees that an insurance company charges to the fees of a bank, you'd be surprised how much less those fees are. And there's advantages that compound interest is available, and there's safety involved at the same time. The flexibility of leveraging your money. Okay, you want money out of the bank, you got to take it out. You want money out of an insurance company, they just give it to you. So there's different products that are available that we discuss that, give you the options at the end of the day.
And so you cover this stuff in the book. Do you cover the insurance option is really interesting, and one that, I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm thinking, I'm not sure I knew that. So do you talk about that in the book as well?
I give an overview of it because everyone's scenario is different, but we do give an overview of insurance. Yes, because again, having been in this for a while, I had a Merrill Lynch checking account back in the day when I had my stocks at Merrill Lynch. But to your point, Merrill Lynch, and and I'm a savings guy, not an investment guy. If you want to invest, that's different. I use the things I talk about with the stylist are about saving money, not investing money. And if you're looking at vehicles that can save you money, then insurance is one of those options that's available to you, because you talk about the third tier of what the book is and what I practice is protection. Insurance for liability insurance for you as a professional. Just like auto insurance protects you when you drive. Life insurance protects you when you die. I'm sure like I know. I've known many folks, pass away, and next thing you know, they got a GoFundMe because nobody put in protection into place.
Yep.
And again, the younger you are, the cheaper it is. Just like the earlier you start, the more money you can make. So I try to get these things out to folks early so that they can understand the value of having them and the value of getting them young so they don't cost a lot of money, and how they can protect and provide for you over your lifetime.
Absolutely. They're cheering for you, Steve.
Oh, righty. Hey, I got one of those.
That's they like that. They like that. The people like it. Okay, so there are some listeners driving to the salon, and they look over on their passenger seat, and they see their their Prada purse, and they're like, I don't know, Steve. What you're talking about doesn't sound like a lot of fun. And I'm not saying you can't have that. I'm not trying to talk, it's like, look, I've driven a Mercedes since I started doing hair. Always used, never knew. Big difference.
But I've driven a Mercedes. I was my dad wore cowboy boots to work, and I'm like, why? And he was like, how comfortable they were. So until I got a pair, I didn't realize that. And next thing you know, my wardrobe was some jeans, cowboy boots, and nice little button down. I had 28 pair at one point in time. Every skin.
Cowboy boots?
And every color.
That's crazy.
Every skin. So I'm not saying you can't have your things, but at the same time, I saved money.
Yeah.
At the same time, I saved money.
It's all about the proportion, right? You don't want to spend disproportionately to what you're saving. Yeah. It's about skewing heavily towards saving. And of course, the loveliness of this whole thing and the difficulty of this whole conversation is that the better you do earlier, the more that you can buy later.
Yeah. And like I said, you've just got to choose. You can't be a purse girl, a watch girl, a glasses girl, and an outfit girl. You got to be one of the, pick one or two. Like I said, I like shoes.
Now you're hurting our audience. Now you're hurting the audience.
But I'm just saying, you got to choose one.
Yes.
You got to choose one. I didn't wear a lot of jewelry. Didn't wear a lot of nice watch. Never owned a Rolex. Buy Benz, but never owned a Rolex. Watches wasn't that big a thing. Jewelry wasn't that big a thing. But my boots, I had boots in every color and every skin, because that was kind of one of the things. I was a fashion guy, so that's kind of what I spent it on.
I think the consumer economy right now has enough affordable luxuries that maybe some of the listeners who struggle with this a little more than others, I'm sure there's things that you can pare down, some of those kind of unaffordable luxuries and lean into some of those more affordable luxuries to get yourself, the fun, out of being a consumer without completely blowing your budget. But I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
So we were talking about numbers. And I know from my research from your side, you have got, hold on, where did I put it? You have got 16 different salons in California, Colorado, 1, Texas, and Washington.
We have 25 salons.
Right. How different from a number standpoint, how different were the numbers for you when you talk about knowing your numbers? Were any of those numbers the same for any one of those salons?
No, they're all different.
But when you get to the next one, you've had to learn 25 different sets of numbers in order to run your business. And what I'm telling a salon owner is, the only thing you got to know is your one set of numbers. That may change, but you just got to know your one set. But if you talk about expanding and doing other things, you look at an entrepreneur like yourself, you had to know 25 different sets of numbers.
Yeah.
And for the average stylist, you just got to know one. So what you complaining about?
Yeah, I hear you. And the biggest problem for us is the lease with the landlords, because those things are 150 pages legal size with little tiny writing, and one passage in the lease points to another passage, which points to another passage, which conflicts with the first passage, and then making sense of it is a lot of science and a little bit of art and a lot of interpretation, and that greatly affects one location from a different location, and that complexity really requires, we've had to hire full-time employees to do nothing but sit there and understand the leases. Having a lease directly with a landlord, like a professional, institutional landlord that has an actual building, is it's mind-numbing. But anyway, I'm kind of semi-ranting and complaining here. But your point, your point is knowing your numbers, and and if you don't know your numbers, you get your face ripped off.
Yeah, and to your point, what you're talking about, knowing your numbers means in this location, I need to have at least so many suites, for the numbers to work. Whereas in this location, I don't need as many. And that's varying from place to place at the end of the day. And, so now you're talking about the square footage and can I fit them in, and working with the architect. Knowing your numbers is a detailed thing that you got to know regardless to what business you're in at the end of the day.
That's right. Okay. Any other money tips before we move on to Untouchable Apprentice Training and Academy?
No. Those are the main things that we talk about. Again, it's about knowing your numbers. It's about understanding interest, mainly compound interest, and about understanding the protections that are available to you that you need to provide for you and your family to make sure that the whole circle is covered.
Right. And you don't suffer some catastrophic event personally in the salon or wherever that can blow the whole thing up. And this is, of course, what insurance is for. We've had episodes on insurance that specifically focused and, beat a dead horse about insurance. And hopefully people liked those and did something. But, it happens all the time with people. You maybe don't always hear about it. You don't read about it in the news, but something happens in the salon and then, you get sued or something, and then it blows the whole thing up. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I know for you, because one of the things I did when I was researching you and what you do for your stylists and stuff like that is you're making sure that Aflac is available to your folks that are in your salons.
That's right. We do a couple things. We offer professional liability insurance as a normal part of somebody working at Salon Republic, and then yes, we have I don't want to call it a deal with Aflac, but we have kind of an arrangement with Aflac where they save some money because so many Salon Republic people have signed up for the Aflac disability and other elements.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. It's cheap.
Yeah, and part of that is the critical care plan. And that's a separate, like I represent a company with the critical care plan. I'll give you a quick story regarding this. I've been in the insurance business for years. I go to a meeting for a company that's launching a new product, and it's called Critical Care. And it is a diagnosis plan based on certain illnesses. So if you're ever struck with cancer, heart attack, stroke, ALS, burns, it's like 13 different categories. And what they realize in the insurance industry is that those things don't necessarily take you out, but they do put you in a disability mode without you necessarily being disabled. So you can't collect disability if you're going to chemo. But you still need money because you can't go to work when you're going to chemo. Mm-hmm. So the critical care plan, I'm listening to what they're talking about, and I'm thinking it's like, okay, well, my wife, her mom had ovarian cancer. Her dad had prostate cancer. Statistically speaking, she's got, that possibility genetically. So I go home, I say, I'm an insurance guy, so I'm like, okay, let's go on and get one of these. I get it for $50,000, which is what they'll pay based on the diagnosis. 9 months, a little over a year from there, she's doing her checking. She gets breast cancer. We got a check for $50,000.
Wow.
That way,
what did that
she
cost?
could take her time off for about a month and go through the process, have the surgery, put some money in the bank, and not worry about how the bills are going to get paid.
Oh, that's tremendous. What an amazing relief emotionally and psychologically. And so what did that cost?
For us, we paid, and we got that in, I was 51, she was 46. It was $180 a month for both of us.
Oh, for both of you? Okay.
Yes, and it pays, and then the next step is, last year, I'm having trouble breathing. So I'd say, something's going on. We go to the ER. I'm diagnosed with congestive heart failure.
Oh.
Come to find out, I had a mild heart attack.
Oh my God.
Got a check for another $50,000. So it's categorized. We've gotten $100,000 out of this thing. And if I, knock on wood, if I ever get cancer, wife has a heart attack, it pays based on categories. And you can use this thing and collect from this thing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Amazing.
Based on what happens. And as you get older, it covers Alzheimer's and things like that also. So If you get this while you're young, because I did this for all of my students, you got a girl, I'd get one for my daughter. She's 28 years old. Got one for her. I got her $100,000 as opposed to $50. It's $42 a month. Yeah. So for $42 a month, she'll have that. But hell, it could be 20 years from now that she's diagnosed with anything and she's going to get a $100,000 check.
Right. No brainer.
Those are the kind of things from a protection standpoint that we talk about with the stylist.
I love it. Fantastic. Okay. Let's talk about your Untouchable Apprentice Training and Academy. Tell us about that. Why did you start it? When did you start it?
I started, because I went through junior operator. Then I started teaching at the schools. And like most folks, you start to see as an instructor, you may enroll 20 people in the fall semester. And next thing you know, through that fall semester, they're dropping off. A lot of people are absent. It's like, what's going on? Why ain't you coming to school? Well, I can't be coming to school every day. I got to work. I'm doing hair at home, this, that, and the other. I got to work and make some money. So I went to the state board to see did they still have that junior operator program. And they had changed it from a junior operator program to an apprentice program. Because when I was there, it was like me directly talking to the state board. Now the apprentice program my program is the intermediary between the state board. So they come to me with their issues, and my company deals with the state board on behalf of you as a student. So the apprentice program allows someone, let's say you got a girlfriend that wants to get their license, but, can't go to school 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. The apprentice program allows you to work in a shop and get your hours while you're working in the shop, as opposed to going to school. And we can get them licensed in 4 to 6 weeks. So they come to me, they take a health and safety class, which walks them through health and safety, sanitation, and disinfection. Once they take that, then we take the information from the stylist and from the individual, send that to the state board, and the state board issues them an apprentice license. And now that individual is working underneath that stylist in the shop and tracking their hours in the salon, and they can get paid and do clients while they're in school, as opposed to, because even when you're in school, you're doing clients, but you're not getting paid.
Right.
The school is.
Right.
So this is the advantage for individuals who want to get their license without going to school.
Right. Hell of a deal. Is it a different? Recently we've had the reduction in hours required at school. Has there been a change in the number of hours for apprenticeship? Because I think the last I heard, apprenticeship hours in California were something like 3,000.
3,200.
3,200
for the salon, 240 hours for the theory. They did not change that at all.
Okay.
So you still have to do the 3,200, but I tell students all the time, it's like, look, yes, you went from 9 months to 5 months at school, but you got to be there every day, 5 days a week.
Not getting paid.
And you got to pay them.
You got to pay them. You're not getting paid.
You can pay me, but you can go to the shop every day and do clients and make money and get paid.
Yeah.
So which option do you want? Now, you still got to do it for 2 years, but you tell me which way you want to go.
Sure. And what would you say about the education itself? Because in all the many years that I've been in this industry talking to hairstylists, all of whom have been to school, they get out of your typical school, and then the real education begins when they're in the salon. What do you say?
Well, again, the downside of the apprentice program is that you only know what the stylist is training you knows.
Yeah.
So you're working for a colorist, you may only learn color, not how to cut, how to style, and how to do some of the other things. So, and again, this business is always about continuing education at the end of the day. So, it just becomes a matter of, if you're in the apprentice program, then you may need to take classes from individuals to grow your knowledge. while you're in that program or once you finish that program. And if you're in school, same thing. Because as much as the school tries to teach you everything, our main purpose is to get you ready to pass the test. So once we get you ready to pass the test, and then there's certain things you have to do per the state board in order to just complete school. So, you got to do 240 hairstyles, so many haircuts, so many hair colors on your little time card. And that's what's taking up all your time. So how do we squeeze in all the techniques from the salon into that same time frame is the challenge at school.
Got it. Very interesting. I think it's fantastic. And when did you start that?
2017.
Okay. So it's pretty new.
And we've got about 60 students enrolled now. It's funny, we try to get the word out, and hopefully this will be a good vehicle. You do social media and all that stuff. But most of the people who come to us either come from referrals or go to the website with the Board of Barbering and Cosmo and look up apprentice and find out that we're out there and do it in that regard. And, we work with the Department of Rehabilitation. So, folks who are, with cow jobs. So, we're trying to get out and let people know that if they're young and they want to get into this industry, that this is an option available to you to work directly in a shop as opposed to going to school. And, we get a lot of people that want to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. And so what is your website?
The website is untouchableaa.com. And then you'll just go to apprentice and you can register there. We have a class every month, the 1 week training, the health and safety training. We have a health and safety class every month where we're taking in new students. So like we just finished last week for health and safety, got the applications back, the paperwork back. Those people will probably be licensed by the end of September.
Very cool. And is this California only?
It is available in other states, but again, for me, yes, it's California only, but there are other states that do have apprentice programs.
Similar programs. Got it.
Similar programs, yes.
Got it. If you could wave a wand and change anything about the industry at all, what would it be?
I mean, I'm working on doing what I would like it to be, and that is financial literacy education. Because again, the skill sets vary. Like I've been teaching a long time. You give me 20 new students, I can point to the 5 or 6 that are going to be in the business in 10 years. You just know. I'm sure you run sweet stuff. Some of them come in, you can tell they ain't gonna be around long. That kind of thing. You just know. But again, the system needs to change in that regard, and that's what I'm working with my ladies right now, because I've created a class that I do this literacy education for stylists, and the class is available at my website, which is StephenDEllis.com, and when you can take the class. But I'm trying to implement this class into my ladies so that they and each teacher can take the framework and explain their scenario through that framework, and at least the students are getting some education at the end of the day, because most instructors don't know how to teach it, but they've been through it. So I'm trying to give them a framework that says, take your experiences now and explain those experiences to your students and your stylists, and hopefully get them in a place now where they leave with education about, at least some education about what finances are and how to make them work for them.
Yeah. Do you have any hair horror stories from your days in the salon or in the school?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got the horror stories in the salon were back in the Jerry curl days, when folks didn't tell you that they had color in.
Ah, yeah.
And you
Henna.
you put, huh?
Henna.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And you put the color in, and next thing you know, I've actually seen rollers, wrapped hair falling out in the sink. And then the color part of it is, the thio would change the color, so you come in with a brown and leave with a blonde or an orange, and it's spotty all over the place because of the porosity. So the color would be all crazy in that regard. As far as the students are concerned, we try to help the students to the most part. Most of our students will let you know that the biggest thing about the schools, I think, and the students is those people that come in with unrealistic expectations.
Okay.
They're bringing you this picture with, highlights and frosted tips and nice haircut. And you come into a school and you want to get all that done for 30, 40 bucks. It's like, come on. And they think, well, you're the teacher, you should help. I am going to help, but the student's going to do the work.
Right. That's why it's 30 or 40 bucks.
Me.
Right. Yeah. If Steve's going to do it, it's going to cost you $300. If the student's going to do it, it's going to cost you $30.
There you go. And I had that reputation because some teachers used to do that and show off. They do everything, and then the students sitting up there with their arms crossed is like, okay, do I get to do anything? How can I learn just watching you?
Yeah. Yeah. Funny. Any last words for the community?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, we are in, I always say this, people only pay 3 people to touch them: doctors, dentists, and a hairstylist. Those are the 3 that mainly we pay to put hands on us at the end of the day. We see our clients more than anyone else. They will self-medicate at CVS and look up stuff on YouTube before going to a doctor and getting a prescription. But to your point, they will not go into beauty supply and try to do their own hair color or their own haircut. So we are more valuable to our students, to our clients, than their doctor or their dentist. I've had clients. If they got a 9:00 appointment every Friday, they go to get some blood work done, and the doctor says, okay, come back on Friday at 9:00. They telling their doctor, ooh, can we do it on another day? Because they ain't missing their hair appointment.
That's right.
At the end of the day.
That's right.
But we have to value ourselves like the doctors do. And we don't do that. So that's the main thing I try to talk about, is being professional in that way, in that regard, to understanding what your business is. And then the second thing I always want to tell students or talk about the industry is everybody wants to talk about getting in the union to have benefits, when they think that's the only way for them to have benefits is to be in a union.
Right. In LA, he's talking about the hair and makeup union for the production, the Hollywood productions, which is not helping right now, right?
No, they're only, to your point.
We happen to be
they ain't doing nothing.
They're striking, not the hair and makeup union is striking, but the writers and I believe the actors union, SAG and AFTRA, are striking right now. And of course, some of the hairstylists who are in the hairstylist and makeup union, they're out of work, right? So
yes,
can't
do no work. So,
right.
And I tell people, when it comes to the union, you can be your own union. You don't need that. You can be your own union if you structure your business right.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing I will talk about is that tip plan I was telling you about. So here's the math. You do 5 clients a day. Each client gives you a $5 tip. And you're working 5 days a week. So at the end of the day, That's $5 a day, $25, 5 days a week, $125. At the end of the month, that's $500. If you take that $500, put it in an interest account at 8% compound interest, you, over 30 years, you will have invested $180,000. That's what your tips were over that 30 years.
Yeah.
That $180,000 has grown to $320,000 in that account.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that $310,000 can provide you with almost $30,000 a year of retirement income at age 60.
Yeah.
And what I try to tell my students is, if you're coming, I know you're in school and you ain't making no money, but if you discipline yourself when you start to put the money you make in your right pocket and your tips in your left pocket, and you discipline yourself early to just save your tips and invest your tips in the right product, you can retire. Again, that scenario means you can retire on your tips with $30,000 a year at age, you're talking age 20, you could be age 50. Age 30, you could be age 60.
Yeah.
For 20 years, if you just did tips. And if you make more tips, then you can make more money. But those are the kind of things that we talk about structurally, individually, that we can do for you to make that happen.
Absolutely. With virtually no change to your lifestyle.
Right? We talking tip money. You didn't have to give up no shoes, no purses, no watches. That was just the tip money.
Yeah, I know. All right. So hopefully you've inspired the listeners to get a little bit better with their money, hopefully a lot better with their money. So thank you so much. Thank you. And you're doing a great job. And so your book, again, all this information is in your book. We've just kind of glanced over some of the things. Mindset of Acquiring Wealth, that's on Amazon and even Audible. And your Untouchable Apprentice Training and Academy. And then give us your website one more time, because I'm sure that's the hub for everything.
So the personal website is Stephen, STEPHEN, DEllis.com. And then you go there, you'll see the Beauty Wealth Accelerator. That's the class that you can take that, again, talks about business structure and then goes into the financing pieces to give you a better understanding of where you want to go and what you want to do. And that class comes with one-on-one conversations via Zoom with me to help structure a plan for you and your family.
Boom.
And that's available across the country.
Amazing. Okay. Awesome. So thank you so much, Steve.